to another episode of the Sidecar Spin. Today I'll be speaking with Tony Tscharke, or T-Bone as most people know him. If you don't know him, he is actually the record holder for the most wins in the 24-hour trial as a passenger. So he has some very interesting stories to tell, and we're going to chat about his career racing sidecars, and yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy it. Welcome to the Sidecar Spin podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks for thinking of us with this. Just listened to a couple of podcasts there the last couple of days, but you're doing a good job. Nice work.
Cool, thank you. All right, so for people that don't know who you are, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into sidecars?
Yeah, sure. So Tony Tscharke is my name, but I guess most people in sidecar world know me as either Bone or T-Bone or Bones or something in between.
Yeah.
I guess I started off with a nickname. I'm very slim. I'm only about 65 kilos now, but throughout my racing career, I was always around 60. So hence the Bone Bones T-Bone kind of name that came along.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that one.
Yeah. So that goes way back. And so do sidecars. Look, I grew up out at Frankton. Neil's Flat, but very close to Frankton. We're on Frankton Road, which was only a few hundred metres from the old Kwangdong control. So, look, as a youngster, we didn't even judge the year on the calendar. We judged it on when the 24 was on.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, here comes the next year. The 24 is on, and leading up to it, there'd be the ride day. I guess 2 weeks before or whenever it was. There was a control up on our 6-way crossroad just up from the farm. Back one way. Crasher was about 5 k's down the road, so we grew up with Crash. We'd go over to his place or vice versa, and knocked around with him on most weekends when we were youngsters. I went to school right through with Crash, in fact, and Stiff, and Travis Bush and a bunch of other guys that have been in sidecar world for a long time. So Yadunda was a bit of a breeding ground for that. But the other direction from our farm, a few k's back to Frankton, is where the Deaners were from. So Shane, of course, very famous for his feats in the 24-hour and Dakar and various things, and he's done very well over the years with various events, and 24 included as well. So I grew up with the 24, in my backyard, literally, and I guess that was what got us interested. My brother was a couple of years older, but he's a Boilermaker. He's always been very handy with a welder, and he was building sidecars, as a teenager, and carried that through, and he must have built 25, 30 sidecars. Wow. With Baz and Crash, but I guess he did all the welding as such, and probably the bulk of the building. So he was he's been very instrumental, I guess, in regards to a lot of kids and people getting into sidecars in the first place. But I raced with him, I guess, from 95. That was my first 24-hour. I mean, we did road trials prior to that, but so I was only 16 then at the time. I guess that was the start of the racing career. Really was 95. The first one I did with Kim was the only one that we actually finished. Look, we entered that in the old trail class because we were very early or new to the scene, and I guess it was about 3 weeks before the event. I ruptured my ACL in my right knee, and which wasn't ideal. So we were, probably looking at pulling out, but I said, no, let's give it a go. It's, it's totaled anyway. So I'll just strap the thing up and we'll give it a go. We're only doing the trail class. So we
worry about it later.
Yeah, worry about it later. You got it. So we got on an old XR 500 there, one of the old rock hoppers, and we were doing okay. We were cruising along. I mean, I was struggling without a doubt. But I guess it was into the night lap, probably the second lap, end of the second lap, and out the back of Accommodation Hill there, and it's a bit of a hold up in one of the creeks there. There was a bunch of chairs stuck in the bottom there, and I remember when we got the all clear, then I went to hop back on the chair, and I just knocked my kneecap really on the upright of the swinging bar, and because the knee was so sloppy, I mean, my kneecap basically just fell off, and
oh no,
it was extraordinarily painful, and wasn't good. And anyway, we got the ambulance to meet us at the next control then, and said, "Oh, look, we'll get it strapped up, see what happens, and we'll see if we can keep going if we have an hour out." And so that's what we did, and got it strapped up, and ended up just under an hour, I guess, behind our time, and we managed to finish it, which was incredible, for us at the time, and probably taught me a bit of endurance and resilience, I guess.
Bit of mental toughness.
Yeah, you got it, and that came in handy later on with other accidents and incidents and all sorts. But Yeah, so I guess that's where it started for us. It was all about the 24, and I mean, yeah, I've heard a bit of Crash and Brad Hunter and people on your podcast, and I think that was always the pinnacle event for most of us, and so yeah, that was no different for me, and I probably did that 5 times maybe with my brother. We had no luck after that.
Yeah.
We never finished another one. We probably should have, well, definitely should have finished a couple, but we're in the winning position there in a couple of years, probably 99, and the '06 is when I did the last one with him. I think Dave was in Europe, or maybe he was injured that year, but yeah, we missed a few. But yeah, most of my career, of course, that people would know is with Dave Manuel, which started in the year 2000. So the first time we did a 24, we finished the one, which was kind of a bonus because we'd been up to Fink. Crusher had organised a bunch of us to go up and do the Fink Desert Race in the year 2000, and that was my first proper ride with Dave. We'd had a couple of practice runs, but yeah, that ended in tragedy. We had this new Butte, was it a Michelin desert tyre, and it was meant to be indestructible, but we got a flat. Oh, must have been 30 k's in, and we had to get up to that first fuel stop at I guess around the 60k mark or thereabouts. But in theory, it shouldn't have been a problem to ride it on a flat just to get up to the fuel stop, and we would have dealt with it there. But yeah, by the time we got there was wire hanging out, and she was a mess, and that was the end of that. So that was hugely disappointing. But
yeah.
Of course, yeah. Then only a month later, we did the 24-hour, and yeah, it was incredible. We just had a pretty trouble-free run, and everything went well, and we managed to get through and win, and that was just the start of an incredible run.
Aren't you the record holder for the most passenger wins?
Yeah.
Well, Dave is as well, isn't he?
Well, Dave for riding,
Yeah.
and myself for passengering. So David won one with his brother before in the, I guess when was that, 96, 7 or something, in the late 90s there, and then we won the 7 together then. So in fact, the first 7 24 hours we did, we won 6 and come second in the other one. So
oh wow,
we had an incredible run.
Yeah, geez.
Followed by DNFs, but yeah.
How does that make you feel? That's a pretty cool achievement.
Look, yeah, I mean, it was just a dream, really. I mean, it was just one of those things. I mean, Dave, consummate professional, and I just hopped on, and I was pretty agile, I guess, apart from the dodgy knee, which that got reconstructed, and off you go, years later. But Dave was, he was a bit of a genius as a rider. He was just so smooth and great equipment. I mean, so he had this EML chrome molly frame, beautiful European frame, and kind of started that, I guess, and probably he copped a bit of grief, I guess, initially, and that everyone had their rock hoppers, and they thought that was going to make life a bit difficult, with someone on a factory frame. But of course, in the years to come, everyone sort of turned over to factory frames, and of course he started what was to be the good trend. And I mean, look at the numbers out there now and the frames out there; it's incredible. But that all started with Dave back in the day, but his background was observed trials. He was a top observed trials rider, and I think you would have come across that with Brad Hunter, and you'll see that with other top, not just sidecar riders, but motorcycle riders in general. That the ability to pick lines and just
go obstacles and stuff.
Yeah, go around obstacles or just different lines than what a lot of people would do. And yeah, he was he was a master at that. And but his bike maintenance and prep and the whole bit and endurance. I mean, he obviously taught me a lot in those early years, and it was all about just keeping the chair light. And look, he was a lot heavier than what I was. I'm not calling him fat. He was just a much bigger guy, and there was nothing to me. I was just a couple of bags of cement. So it was really just a matter of keeping the chair light. And he always made a point of that. And keep your weight back and over the rear as much as you can. And because he would always stand up so much. And again, with the observed trials background, but so we just sort of let the bike, the sidecar sort of fling around below us. And it's amazing how many photos you used to get, and you could barely even see me on there because I was just sort of tucked up behind him, standing up quite often, and just winding through trees or whatever. And that kind of stuff. I guess we sort of saw people like Razzie and Luxton back in the 90s doing different altogether on the rock hoppers, but just that smoothness. And I think Dave was pretty well known for his smooth riding style. And I guess
it makes a difference.
Compliment that.
Definitely, with the smoother, because it makes it a lot easier for you too. You're not fatiguing and stuff as much when you're not getting flung around as much.
Absolutely, and with the good suspension, of course, with the factory frames and what have you. So it's not like we were going slow, but generally the the faster you're going on a chair, the smoother it is for a passenger. And he wouldn't, so left-handers, of course, were only downfall, cambered left-handers because of my lack of weight. I mean, back in the day, I could get my ass scraping on the ground. I certainly couldn't do that anymore. But that, only did so much. But he, we'd always get his weight right in the chair as well. Look, that smoothness was just so good to ride with. And I don't know, I think, people talked about good sidecar teams, and it was just, poetry in motion when you get it right, when you're sliding a left-hand power slide, or right-hander just breaking into it, heavily, and then just bore out of it. I mean, it was great fun. And I think because we had such a good run for so long, it just all became very natural. We were doing a lot of road trials in between, and we got into a bit of motocross, to probably more to get numbers up there for a while. But we enjoyed that to a certain extent as well. It certainly wasn't probably our favourite form of sidecar racing, but when Fink came on the scene, then after that first year where things went pear-shaped, we went back. We did it 5 times in the end.
Oh, wow. Yep.
I guess, we won our class there the 3 times we finished. And, I mean, one of those was phenomenal with the rain. I think there was about 4 inches of rain overnight there. So,
wow.
I'm sure you're aware of how it works, but you do the prologue, and then that determines your position. And then you do the ride up, and that was pretty dry on the way up. And then, overnight in Fink, there was about 4 inches of rain. So the next day coming back, I mean, it was a quagmire to say the least. And that race, I can't remember which year that was, so 1 or 2 or something. Crash had pipped us on the way up. I reckon he had a minute or two on us on the way up. That ride back to the first fuel dump, then, as wet as it was, that first 70, 80 Ks was firm. It wasn't too bad. We were riding really well, but we come around a bend, and we're coming up sort of a hill and then around a bend, and then there's a guy, a solo, he just crashed, and it was kind of too late, and Dave just sort of jammed on the brakes, and we sort of went slamming into him and the bike, because he'd separated from the bike. So the poor guy, we ran into him, but not at high speed. We washed off most of our speed at that point. But the bike stalled, and we just couldn't get the bloody thing going. And Dave had been messing around with some additives with fuel, and it turned out it probably gummed up the carby a bit.
Bugger.
He was ready to pack it in. He'd sort of done all the usual things with plug and what have you. And we sort of were running out of options. I said, "Oh, look, you might as well just take the carby off, and what else are we going to do? We're just sitting here." So I'll never forget, he had mud all over his hands, and it was still pretty wet where we were. And he sort of pulled the carby to bits, and messed around with the butterfly, and sort of reluctantly put it back together with mud and all. And first kick, off she went. And so we kept going, and we managed to sort of pass all the other chairs that had gone past us. And
oh, wow.
a bunch
you
of
guys
people
must have been hooking.
We got into it after that, of course, bit pissed off, I guess. I guess we lost half an hour or so on the side of the track, but we must have got to within, I don't know, maybe it was at 80 Ks or so from the end. And there was just huge pools of water at this stage. Buggies just, broken down everywhere on the side of the track, because the buggies go first on the way back. And it was just wreckage everywhere. But we'd passed all the other sidecars, and it was only really Crash in front of us then, and we thought, oh, he's long gone to be just about finished. But we got to this, I reckon it was probably no exaggeration, about 100-metre pool of water. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And once that desert gets wet, well, it's happened this year, of course, the start of this year, phenomenal rain out that way. There was Crash on the side of this bloody lake, and I'm not sure, I think we pulled over it. Obviously he was broken down. He took in a bit too much water, but so off we went. And we managed to end up finishing and winning our class there. But probably the last 5 or 6 Ks, there was a chopper above us. You could tell when the chopper was following you, because quite loud, of course, and the choppers are going to and fro with Fink, doing all their filming and what have you. So we knew, I guess, that we were the first sidecar, and we were just covered in mud. And I guess that last sort of, in particular, 20 Ks or so, incorporating part of the prologue track, was really sort of tight, windy, and good berms. And but there were just pools of water everywhere, and I just gave up with the goggles, and just took them off. And every time you'd sort of get near the corner, whether it's a right-hander, you just hop over the mudguard. And hold his waist and hold out. But if it was a lefty, of course, I'd just go right out and then just close my eyes because it was just mud, all over your face and cake.
Blasted.
You got it, and we finished the line. I could still tell the chopper was there, and we sort of got to the runoff then, and just taking the gear off, and I took my helmet off and sort of looked up at the chopper and gave it the thumbs up, and that was all filmed. That was in the filming of that Fink that year, whichever year it was, 2000 and I don't know, 1 or 2 or something, 2 I think it was. But yeah, that was.
I might have to check that out.
yeah, the footage you'll find somewhere.
Yeah, I haven't seen any footage yet of the sidecars at Fink, but yeah, I'd love to be able to see some.
Yeah, a few of us have got DVDs of that. That was all on VHS back in the day. But
I wonder if there's anything on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a good point. But look, I could slip you one of these DVDs one day. I know.
Yeah, sure.
There we had a get together at Baz Rolex there in the last year, and I think Crash or someone had it there, and I hadn't seen it in years. But yeah, sure enough, there it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, those Fink days were incredible.
What sort of reaction did you get from the crowd and stuff? People would have been spinning out.
Oh, for sure. And, it's the biggest event that happens in Northern Territory each year. So, I mean, they get, I'm not sure what figures they get now, but there's be 20, 25,000 people out there just camped on the side of the track. And these days it's changed a bit, after a fatality there a few years ago.
Yeah.
There's exclusion zones now, and I think you've got to be a distance off the track now. And, you can't just camp up and down the thing like everyone used to. And, for the, all the Darwin guys that come down, I mean, they'd make a week out of it, of course. And it was just a giant piss up for so many of those guys. But, the numbers were small in regards to entrance back in those days, 300, 350 maybe in those early 2000s. But, they're getting up to 600 or more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this year is 750.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Because it's the 50th anniversary.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. So I reckon, sort of 600 bikes, 100 plus buggies. Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah.
So crazy event, but I guess it was everything around that too. And, we'd always stay at the same caravan park with the sidecar guys and, leading up to it and then all the, sort of prepping the bikes and, we're just, as you would know, the sidecar field, we all get on like a house on fire. So it was, a few too many drinks and, too many good times. But, when it got down to the race, it was, we're all trying to finish like everyone else. And I guess we always surprised a lot of people that we could sort of end up, midfield or wherever, depending on the track condition. But, the whoops are always a ridiculous challenge. But,
have you ridden anything else similar to that?
Oh, nothing quite like Fink. I mean, the last time Dave and I did it was in 2005, and yeah, that's probably the worst I've been physically. I mean, the 24-hour, I think, because, we did it so many times, and you had the rest periods, of course, as you would know, with checkpoints, and sometimes you'd have 5, even 10 minutes to regroup, before you went and did another section, whereas Fink is just, you literally, you just go as hard as you can, start to finish, roughly 3 hours each way for a chair. Yeah, there used to be the road section there, which is not in it anymore, so you had that sort of 30 Ks or thereabouts to rest there in between a bit, but just those whoops. I mean, they just take the hell out of your kidneys and your lower back, and just brutal. And that last year in 2005 was hot and dry, and what you expect out there. And that's probably the worst I've ever been, I reckon, as a passenger, and getting probably close to muscle meltdown and just slapping off the back of Dave. I couldn't even hold my body back in that last sort of 30, 40 Ks. That was brutal. And I reckon I said to Dave at the end, I don't know if I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
And I think last time in 2005 we managed to get a decent group there anyway, and there hasn't been the chair class now. It would be very difficult to, I don't think it would be possible now anyway. In fact, I think quads have been banned, haven't they?
I think they're banned. Yeah,
so look, I mean, it was amazing days up there, I guess, because the 24 was always big here. You'd get a good following of crowds and what have you, but to see literally thousands of people on the side of the track and choppers flying around, and the attention they gave us was
surreal.
Pretty surreal and outrageous. Yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, still for me, and I think for Dave and for many of us, the road trial scene, reliability trial scene was always sort of key for us, and obviously the 24-hour was the big one each year, and we had a lot of good times and a fair bit of success with 6 hours and all stuff in between, but it was all about the 24. And we I guess had such a fortunate run there up until I guess 2009. Yeah, 2009 perhaps was that 6th of the 7 sort of wins there, and not quite in a row. We had a second place there one year when Dave brought out one of his old VMCs. We'd never ridden it before, but yeah, I guess he was prepping up one of the bikes for Fink. But yeah, that didn't go perfectly that year. But even then, I mean, it was just I guess to show you that how fortunate our run had been. We come into a fuel dump out at Brownlow there. This was on the old, we had CR 500 motors back in those days, and must have been 02 or 03 around that period too. And radiator hose had got ripped off, through the scrub section there, and we just sort of rolled on into the control, and this last drips of water were coming out of the radiator, but of course we're at the fuel dump, so we just stick the hose back on, and hose clamped her up and filled her up with water, and off we go again. So all fluid, and so that was the kind of fortune we'd had, I guess. As well. I mean, we really didn't have major issues at all in those first 7 years. Well, not quite right. There was certainly one year it was wet. It pissed down just before the event started, and I reckon it was the third section. Very early on, and you're going a bit gung ho sometimes, and we would come around. That was a bit like when we hit old mate there at Fink, but we'd sort of come around a hillside, and there was a right hand bend, and so we've come around there, but as we've gone over the rise, all of a sudden we're going sideways, but then all of a sudden we're going backwards down the hill. And we just couldn't wash any speed off. And the farmer in that property had obviously extracted some massive tree stumps from trees, and they were well off the track. Not the farmer's fault, but by that stage, of course, we were well off the track. And so unbeknown, we've just careered backwards into one of these stumps, and so I've got thrown straight off, and it's quite ironic. I actually landed, flat on my back on another one, and it was pretty rough on top of it. And these aren't just little stumps. I was literally elevated off the ground, just about impaled on this.
Yeah, I was going to say they usually have big spikes out of them too.
Yeah. Look, I'm very fortunate. I mean, still to this day, I've got lower back, soft tissue damage from that. I know that's exactly what it's from. I get deep tissue massage, still, and whenever my masseuse gets in that area, it's that bloody stump.
Yeah.
but yeah, look, the bike, was pretty much unharmed, and Dave sort of got flicked off pretty quick. He was fine. And I'll never forget, he came running over to me, and because I was nowhere near the bike or him at the time, and I was sort of laying on this stump, and it's pretty painful initially, and I'm like, fuck, what have I done here? And he said, you're right, and he's sort of, I think grabbed my shoulder or something, and I was sort of slid off this stump, and realised that I could still move, and I was certainly conscious. I didn't get knocked out or anything, but and he's, what are we going to do? And I said, start the fucking bike. Let's get on with it. So we started up, and off we went, and I just downed a heap of Nurofen or what. I think I had some decent painkillers there, just in case something like that had happened. And, kept up with that throughout the night. It got a bit tough through the cold of the night, but no, we had a pretty good run for the rest of the time, and obviously didn't damage the bike at the start. And that was one of our wins. So
wow.
To think that had happened so early on, and definitely had to dig a bit deeper in that one than most. But at the same time, some of those real dry years, was it around there 2000? I don't know, 6, 7, 8. They were all droughts around that period, and God, the track was just brutal. When it was out with the understarts in particular out Brownlow Way. Occasionally a couple of those sections had to get pulled. Just that bull dust. I mean, fresh. Call it what you will if people watch Dakar, but the bull dust, just when it's that fine and just freaking bottomless. I mean, it's not great, but of course those square edges, they take it out of you in the chair. But again, Dave would look after us, and we just got through. And I think those night lapses, when we knew we could probably do the damage over the field, and we just sort of settle in. And if we knew we had a good couple of night laps, the last lap was just good fun. You'd just sort of get into it, and that's.
Do you like riding at night?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, for us, I think that was, we knew how to conserve ourselves and the endurance side of things. And we knew if we had good night laps, we'd be at the pointy end, somewhere near the top. And of course, you'd keep an eye on what everyone else was up to. But, those early days, it was time to the minute. And then they did 4 sections or 3 or 4 sections that were timed to the quarter minute, I think it was. But I think my job, probably more than anything, was to just remember which sections you're really close to the minute. When you'd come in, you'd see if it had just ticked over as you were coming in, or if just after you got there, if it just ticked over. And I'd try and remember those sections, in particular then for those, night laps, and then the last lap, because you knew that's where you could, really make the difference when it was time to the minute. But yeah, we also knew that if you just had a good smooth run, you're always going to do well. But yeah, it was an incredible time, and then even then, I guess the last four we did, we only finished that one in 2012, which was the last time we won then. But yeah, I think the first year, when was that? 2010. That might have been the gearbox, but I reckon it was gearbox that year that went. But yeah, it might have been 11 then. But we always joked that was very early on, maybe the second or third section. We come through and managed to pick up, it was a bit of wire, a roll of wire that had come out of the ground, and it just wrapped around the rear wheel and around the rear guard, and sort of snapped off the wiring there. So we'd lost our, wiring in the rear. But Mark Launer was in front of us. We always joked that Mark had set us up because the
booby trap.
Yeah, but booby trap. He'd come second to us numerous times, and at that stage, I don't think he'd won one there. But he was such a good. Yeah, he was one of our main competition, probably along with Hector Evans there and Sean Harmon with him, and Crash when he was riding then, and often with Jed. But and there was some good teams. But we did always joke that Mark had set us up on that one. But yeah, that put us out that year, and yeah, then we did win that one in 2012, which was great. And for me personally, at that stage, Mandy, I'd married, Amanda, who, she was right into sidecars. That's how we met. Sidecars are a huge part of my life. It was sort of, that was her background as well. And sadly, she had a terrible accident, which, resulted in her being in a wheelchair, and she's a permanent paraplegic as a result. But, I think all of us knew when that had happened. The dangers of sidecar racing were ever present, but I guess in regards to people that we all knew. I mean, that was the first real tragedy, I guess, that had happened in the late 90s.
Did she have an accident on a sidecar?
Yeah, she did. So it was in what's called the statewide rally.
Yep.
Which was up in, they're up in the lower Flinders, they're up in Warabra, and she was with a partner at the time there, and it was just an absolute tragedy. It was just on the road, and dust involved. It was no one's fault. It was just one of those very unfortunate circumstances, and unfortunately, she got flung into a tree, and she's never walked again. But yeah, that's kind of how we met. Her brother was still racing. Her dad was heavily involved with the 24, for many years, and sort of we met each other years down the track. But shit, I remember the first that first 24 with my brother there in '95. We come into the Gawler control, and Amanda, who I didn't even know back then at all, this was before her accident, but she was there with Kelly Hayden, wife of the very famous Andy Hayden.
Okay.
And they were just giving everyone a bit of a massage, just over your shoulders at the control, and then you shot off again. And I remember at the time thinking, well, there's a couple of nice, attractive young ladies, and sure enough, 9 years later, I married one of them. So well done, Andy, and well done, me. So there you go. But, it's funny how these things work, isn't it? Irony and what have you. But
yeah, and it's all such a big fan. Like everyone knows everyone, and it's such a big like the whole sport. Like everyone sort of, you can do it as a family, and like your daughter races as well. So
yes, Ella got into it then, and she's over in Canada right now doing it at school. She's actually doing quite a bit of skiing. But But she's what's she now, 15 and a half, and she's spent a couple of years on the side with Asher Rowan doing motocross and having a great old time. You've seen her out there, obviously.
Yeah.
And Mandy's brother, was still racing even last year, doing a bit of motocross, and still doing road trials. And the other, him and Scott Richo did the 100th, which they'd rode together a lot in those early days when we were too. So yeah. Look.
So does your brother still ride? You said you did some with him.
No, he hasn't ridden for years. Well, look, I guess '99's the last time we rode, and that was, I reckon it was '99. That's the one we probably really should have won. We were leading at the time, and you into the second lap, and just a stump in Saltbush, and didn't know it was there, of course, and we were hiking. We were probably doing, I don't know, 70 k an hour, probably 60, 70 k an hour. I don't know. It was in a time section. And neither of us saw it, of course, and sidecar, we'll hit that, and that resulted in a high side. I got flipped. We measured it afterwards, about 20 metres. I got catapulted.
Wow. Holy moly.
That didn't end well. Fractured a few ribs, and I was pretty lucky actually, because the visor of the helmet, smashed and come straight back into my face, and it cut straight above one of my eyes. I got a permanent little L shape in one of my eyebrows. But if that went into my eye, that could have been a very different story.
Yeah.
But essentially, I kind of walked away from it. Some pretty bad soft tissue damage in one leg, but we didn't know at the time. But Kim had snapped his leg badly, and of course he hadn't taken his boot off, and so
Oh.
he didn't realise until the next morning. But so he was out of action for quite some time. But yeah, then I guess he was a Boilermaker in the mines. He got into the mines then, and he was up at Roxby and Moomba, and he was all over the place. But he wasn't sort of able to be riding a lot. And I reckon it was Crash that realised or found out that Dave was looking for a passenger and pointed him in my direction. And that's when I hopped on then that following year in 2000. And
So why sidecars? Did your family have anything to do with them before you guys did it, or was it just because you guys saw them in the 24 and thought, oh, we want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Same as Crash and a lot of us, I guess. We'd sort of grown up with, the 24, either on our property or near it, or for us just up the 6-way crossroad up the end, the old Mad Mile. And yeah, it was just that interest and fascination. And I'll still never forget, going over to Dina's Creek, very young and just seeing all the old XRs and TTs and KDXs and all these old bikes that, we just envied seeing these guys. And I guess I was, and Kim and I and Crash were all very close, and we were just fascinated by sidecars and just thought, well, that looks like looks like a great thing to do. And back in those days, you'd get 40, 45 chairs. In the 80s, it was huge. All these rock hoppers and home built bloody things. And yeah, because Kim was a Boilermaker, I guess he slapped one on the side of an old RM80 we had, and what was it, TRX 250, and a bunch of different things. And sorry, TS 250, should I say? And I don't know. It was just one of those things. I guess we grew up with it and got into it, and at an early age. And I rode.
Did you teach yourself how to passenger?
As a passenger, yeah, of course. That's what we all sort of did.
Yep.
It's not rocket science, and the riders all say most of us haven't got much in between our ears to hop on in the first place, but yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. Let's face it. But yeah, it's good fun. It's an incredibly fun thing to do, and when you get a ride and when it comes together as a team, it's just so enjoyable. And yeah, I think to share that, especially with something like the 6 hours, 24 hours. I mean, to share that with someone else, it's incredible. And and some of the things we've seen and done on a chair have been quite phenomenal. But and look, of course, with that comes a couple of bad injuries. But and then for me, in the end, that was 2013. That was the last time I ever raced. And we I snapped my leg in a bunch of places. And it was no one's fault. It's just a bunch of markers down and in the night lap, and we knew we were in control. We were at that point. You knew where you were sort of roughly, and we just trying to ride smooth. It was in an old property my family actually owned back in the day, but it was about 15 k's out from our farm. But there was a big V dip there, and a bunch of markers were down, and in the night lap, and we only saw that. At the last minute, obviously all the solos had sort of gone straight ahead, and we followed that. And thank God, actually, Dave, he sort of saw it at the last second, and it wasn't just a small V dip. It was sort of like a little creek almost.
Yeah.
But so his last reaction was to feed the throttle on and just mono, and try and jump the other side, and basically did that. It's just we hit the other side of this V dip, and the force was just huge. And unfortunately, because going back to my dodgy bloody knee, I'd had the thing strapped to the hilt, and it was and fairly rigid. My right leg was always very rigid, and that was okay in a chair because your left one's the one you had to fold up, of course, for swinging out to the left. So it was overly braced, and of course when we've hit the other side of the bank, it's just it's immediately shot us up in the air. We didn't crash; we just did a massive
cased it
jump.
out.
Yeah, pretty much. We just did a massive sort of airborne jump, and I did a big Superman. The landing wasn't great, but we landed it. But of course, I knew straight from that impact that I'd snap something. And
wow.
We sort of Dave's like, "You're right." I said, "Yeah, keep going." So we got to the end of the section, and I hopped off, and then I was like, "Oh shit, I can't even put weight on this thing." Yeah, I've definitely done something. So. Yeah, and then the resulting trip to the hospital was interesting too. But they called in for, I guess, the ambulance or medic or whatever. And Dave's son, Brad, of course, Brad Manuel, who won with, the other Brad there last year, which is, it was amazing to see that, of course, all these years down the track for the two Brads. But anyway, they were going to take us to the Truro Hospital, and anyone that knows the area fairly well knows there's no hospital in Truro. So
No.
it was not the ambulance, it was the medics. But
Yeah.
at the time, anyway, they were like, "No, hop in with Brad." So yeah, Brad drove us through to Kabunda to the hospital. And yeah, she was a pretty painful trip, I must say. But anyway, we got there, and obviously it turned into not such a good thing. But yeah, fracturing your calcaneus, I wouldn't strongly recommend it. But essentially the heel bone. But yeah, I'd fractured tibial bone and fractures in the knee and fractures all over the place. But yeah,
Does that make
breaking your
you
heel.
paranoid for your daughter riding, like with your wife's accident and
Oh,
you getting
look,
injured? Does it like play in your mind?
of course, I'd be lying
Yeah.
if I said not. And obviously for Mandy in particular, I mean, she couldn't even watch her brother, do motocross, let alone. She's been to a few motocrosses with Ella, but yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't mind watching her race. I prefer to be there. And Ash's got a good head on her shoulders. She's really mature for her age, and we feel really comfortable with her riding. And we've known Rowie forever. Her father and James has been riding sidecars forever too.
Yeah.
Which is how she got into it. So yeah, look, I mean, obviously. It probably doesn't look ideal from the outside when you look at the fact that Mandy's in a wheelchair forever, and I had a couple of bad accidents on him as well. But hey, it's a fun thing. It's a huge part of our lives, and yeah, so we're all for it. And yeah, what she does down the track, we're not sure. She's like I say, in Canada right now, so we're not sure. She gives anything a go, so who knows what she'll take on down the track. She's a very avid, keen basketballer too, but time will tell. But yeah, look, it's been a big part of our family, as you can obviously tell.
Yeah, no, it's in the blood.
Yeah,
it's hard to say no to the kids when they want to be like their parents as well.
Oh, of course, and yeah, Ella. Well, she would never remember seeing me race, but yeah, that was an incredible memory for me in 2012. The last time we did win, because Katie was 4 at that stage. Ella was in the pram, but and yeah, of course, Katie was walking by then, and yeah, getting to the end, and she sort of ran up to me, and it's yeah, you have a tear in your eye when that happens. I can tell you. It's very emotional. I'd seen that happen with Dave and his kids, and Hector with his kids and stuff, and to be in that position. And I'm really proud that I was able to have that one time where Katie doesn't really remember it, but yeah, there was certainly she ran up to me, and then I certainly remember it. And yeah, Mandy and my brother then, in those many of those years, he would still be there for the event quite often, and they'd follow us around, and yeah, we always had that incredible support from Dave's family, let alone mine, and yeah.
How many did you actually end up doing? 24s?
Oh yeah, it must have been I think 15 maybe in the end. I think I did say 5, or maybe I think I did 5 with Kim in the end, and then I must have done 10 or 11. We finished? We won 7. And then we had the second, and then we had 3 DNFs. So yeah, I guess 11 with Dave. So what's that? 16 maybe, 15 or 16, something like that. We did actually enter the 100th. Reluctantly. It was very last minute. Poor Dave's had his health issues with bloody Meniere's disease. It's been a horrible thing for him.
Poor bugger. I couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah. He's a tough nut. He's hard to crack, but geez, it's taken it out of him. But yeah, and I've had this bloody rheumatoid arthritis the last few years, and treating that okay now. But anyway, look, he still had a chair, and we sort of had a chat there, after entries sort of closed. There were 24. We said, do you reckon there's any chance we could give this thing a crack? Just even if we could just get a few sections in or a lap in or whatever. And we thought, yeah, bugger it, why not? Let's have a go. And the 24-hour committee were very gracious and said, look, we'll have you back for this. And so we did actually enter it, but then unfortunately and we had one ride. Yeah, we hadn't ridden since 2013.
Yeah.
And we had a practice out at Byron Hoffman's property there, and it felt okay. Not great, but it felt okay. And we said, oh, let's give it a crack. And we entered, and then that week leading up to it, unfortunately, Dave's bloody Meniere's really took it out of him, and we couldn't get to the start line. So it was a real shame. It would have been wonderful just to be there with the Hutchies and Crash and some of these guys that we'd sort of grown up with, and then I guess it somewhat mentored. I guess seeing the Hutchies go through their career and do so well, and then now in later years seeing Brad Hunter with Brad Manuel, and Dave did a couple with his son Brad Manuel, and it's a real shame not to have been able to hop on there in 24, but at the same time we're a bit washed out now and not physically great, so it's just one of those
it would have
things.
still been good just to putt around, and yous wouldn't have putted around.
Well, you never know. 'Cause
You get out there and you're like, right, let's go.
well, I think if we knew that we could be, our health would allow us to ride okay. Well, yeah, who knows? We certainly wouldn't have been near the top, but we would have given it a crack for sure.
Yeah. And so you were talking before about mentoring, like the younger ones coming up. Who was your mentors? Like who
Yeah,
was
well,
your inspirations and
look, I think in those, really early days, certainly, Baz Rolac, but he was so good in regards to looking after us young guys with RCB motorcycles, and we'd all get stuff done with him, and yeah, he was he was a father figure for Crash. He literally lived with him or boarded with him for a couple of years, and because we were really close to a Crash, we sort of gained that relationship. But I think watching wise, certainly Darren Winter and Dean Hoff, I mean they were top guys back in the '90s, and in particular Razzie and Luxton, and to see Razzie come back and race much later in life was pretty cool seeing that. So yeah, they're the guys we really looked up to, I guess. And then, well, for me, when my brother and I started, yeah, certainly the Longs, Jeff and Kevin, in regards to solo stuff, were incredible. And then Jeff went and did it with sidecars as well, and he was incredible to watch. And yeah, and then I guess seeing the Manuel brothers, and when we just started, they were sort of the ones to beat, I guess. And yeah, and then obviously Crash got pretty good pretty quick, and then when it got into the early 2000s, yeah, Hector and Sean were just guns when they could keep the bike on the track, and yeah, Mark and Matty Neldner and yeah, Marky it was great having those guys out there, and yeah, Richo and Matt were still racing, and there was a whole heap of teams, and yeah, even the old Shicks. I mean, the Shicks came second to us one year. I mean, that was a phenomenal year in regards to the 24 hour. That was I forget the years, sorry, but yeah, probably 02 or 03. There was a real wet one, like a real wet one for the 24, and it was just it was brutal through the night, and that was one we didn't enjoy the night because your headlights just wouldn't work. The back of
yeah.
Kapunda, the road sections were even worse than the bloody competitives
Yeah.
because
It was like that
just,
in 24. You had to
yeah,
ride
yeah,
on the grass on the side because we were just sliding everywhere all over the road.
yeah.
Like you couldn't even stay upright on the bloody roads.
Spot on, and the mud was just piling on the lights, so you literally couldn't see. So we'd just be pulling. In some roads, you'd be pulling over every 100 meters and wiping your lights off, and then keep going. And yeah, it was tough, real tough. In the end, I got a feeling only maybe 6 sidecars finished that, maybe 30 solos that year. We
Yeah,
actually come
wow.
third. Not sure if that's ever happened before, maybe in the early days, but as in, there were a couple of solo diversions, but yeah, we actually come third. There was 2 solos that finished in front of us, and I don't know if that's ever happened before or since, but
Oh, is
yeah,
that third overall?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow,
So
yeah.
that's a bit crazy to think, but like I say, there were some diversions. I think
Yeah.
there was maybe 2 or 3 that year, but yeah, we managed to keep the thing upright in the sections, and yeah, it was it's pretty gutsy to win one of those, but yeah, Shicky finished that year. He's one of my neighbours. We still catch up walking the dog occasionally at the bike track here. He's one of my neighbours around the corner here in Newry. But I think that's the last time he ever rode. But yeah, he used to be the alarm clock for me because the old XR, he'd still fire it up. He works up at Yalumba, and oh yeah, Shicky's off to work. Time to get out of bed. But yeah, how sidecars just keep on coming around. But yeah, that was a cool year for sure.
So, what would you say is the most challenging type of track to ride? Like, were you guys good in the mud, or did you like the dust,
Yeah,
or like,
yeah, no, I preferred the mud for sure. I mean, apart from that one year, it was just so over the top muddy. It was just brutal just trying to get through anything. But even then, I mean, we loved a challenge, and Dave was just good in any conditions. So yeah, we kind of relished in any of that kind of stuff. And but it was more the real dry, shitty drought years, and obviously, yeah, that what last year was one of those, wasn't it? But yeah, it can get it's just a
rough?
square, the
Yeah.
rock so brutal. And yeah, I mean, I guess that was on the flats out at Wells there last year, wasn't it? Seeing the wind come up and the dust, and I think even Crash commented on that you're sort of getting sandblasted inside your helmet, and it just takes everything out of you. It's just brutal,
Yeah, and all the
and
rocks in the creek and everything's really exposed.
spot on, spot on. So yeah, square edges, dust, and nah, that's as shitty as it gets.
Yeah.
But certainly with the 24 and any road trials, these real dry years, they're brutal. And of course, Fink, well, it's just never-ending sand in the whoops, which wasn't great. But motocross, we had some great fun with that. But
so you did a little bit of motocross?
Yeah. We were, I guess, in those early 2000s. There, we got into it there where the numbers went nuts there, and Rocky was doing great things there with Morgan, and they were getting some really good numbers at Morgan. And then there was, I reckon, a couple of years there was around 100 shares. All these pre-70s were coming, pre-75s were coming out from Victoria, and be 30 on a grid or something. It was just ridiculous, and a lot of us had never seen these pre-75s, and it was.
Where are they all gone?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, let's not get political, but things went a bit pear-shaped there with certain things and people. But it's a shame because the scene was really good, and Dave, with his maintenance again, and we always had these incredible motors. We'd often get off the line well, but I guess my lack of weight was a bit of a problem with motocross at times. But no, we would really take it up to some of those top teams there, and we had some really good rides there. Actually, one of my most memorable there would be, I reckon it was a Heck Henderson back in the day, but at the Akusa Park track. And I think, I don't remember the format, but we'd won the first race anyway. And I think we just had to sort of end up in the top 2 or 3 in the next, and it would have been all good. And we got the whole shot, and we had a good little lead. And Dave hit one of the jumps there, just super big. We hit this thing real big, and on landing, a bit crossed up on the landing. And because of the cross-up landing, then we went the other way, and then she flung it off. We went straight over the bars, and it rolled over a couple of times. This got filmed. It's again, someone's got this somewhere. But we ended up in the ambulance. So the ambulance was on the inland of the track, infield, should I say, of the track. And the bike and Dave nearly ended up in the back of the ambulance, literally. So it was it's quite funny looking back on that. I don't think either of us got majorly injured that time. Don't quote me on that. I think Dave, he took the shoulder then, if I remember correctly. It might have been when he'd done a collarbone before, but yeah. And I reckon Crash had mentioned before as well that South Coast, he broke a wrist on a jump there, and I broke a bone in my wrist exactly on the same jump, the same race.
Oh no!
So some of those brutal jumps. Dave he certainly wasn't afraid to give them a go, but a couple of times it didn't work out all that well. But,
yeah. Oh wow!
No, they were good fun. We didn't get into it quite like like Crash and some of those guys, but always admired what Robbo and some of those guys could do. It was incredible. I did actually ride with Robbo once. And,
oh wow! Yep.
Yeah, near on killed me. That's sort of the first time I'd done a proper motocross, and I reckon that was a week after the 24, if I remember correctly. But yeah, just muscles weren't used to that kind of thing, and sort of hung on for dear life. But yeah,
it is different. It is different.
Different game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else have you been on with?
Oh, look, certainly hopped on with Rowie on one of Baz's. I've been on with Baz before over in Victoria for a round somewhere. I can't remember where that was. Hopped on with Goose once on one of the old pre-75s. Goose had this long flowing beard. He was a character. But, you'd sort of hop on with anyone that needed a hand back in the day, I guess. But racing-wise, nearly always it was with Dave or, with Kim in those early days. Did hop on with Crash once, and I reckon... that was at Gilman. Something went wrong there, but I reckon that's when he totaled his knee. But yes, I don't exactly recall. Yeah, you'd have to chat to Crash about that. But I think it was. I think I'd slipped or something had gone wrong in my side of things anyway. But
they'll blame the passenger anyway.
I'm pretty sure that was my fault, that one. But yeah,
don't ever admit to it.
Well, yeah, 2013 was definitely my fault with the 24 because I remember distinctly saying, "Yeah, go for it, Dave," because you could see he was tentative and all the tracks went forward, and I'm like, just go. That seems to be where it's going. And of course, that led to my downfall. So that was my own fault for sure. But yeah, apart from that, we hardly had a crash really. That motocross one, and I mentioned there nearly in the back of the ambulance and. That one, that one that finished the career. But apart from that, we had an incredibly good run. So really complain. But they catch up with you. The old chairs, they'll catch up with you eventually. Unfortunately.
So did you ever go overseas and do any racing?
Not racing, but certainly observing. So I was a big traveller back in the day, or still am, I guess. But in fact, I'm going over to Argentina in, about 7 weeks' time to see a rally raid race with Mark Glauner and Crasher. So,
oh, wow, yeah.
Along with Batesy, so there's a round of the rally raid series, not far out of Mendoza in Argentina. And I spent a bit of time in Chile and Argentina back about 25 years ago now. But yeah, I was in the wine game. I used to do vintages here in the Barossa and then over in California, and I'd always stick a backpack on, and I spent a lot of time traveling in Central and South America. But one of those round the world trips I did with Nick, another guy that was into chairs back in the day, Nick Schiller. But we did a trip over to one of those around the world airfares we did in 2001. That was we ended up in Sweden and saw a sidecar cross Grand Prix in Sweden, a place called Varberg, which is a few hours north of Copenhagen when you cross over the bridge into Sweden there into Malmo. And that was the first time I'd seen a sidecar cross Grand Prix, and I mean, just amazing seeing these Zabels and just ridiculous size motors, the big bloody 700cc singles and guys with balls of steel and just doing these ridiculously long motos, was it 35 minutes plus a lap or whatever it was, and just crazy. And that was when Willemsen and Sergis were at their peak, and any of us that sort of showed any interest in the sidecar cross scene back then knew that these guys were next level, and that was incredible to see. And then managed to go back in 2003 then with Baz Rolak and Brenton Tomney, and we had a wad of cash from a few guys here, and ended up buying it must have been 6 or 7 chairs. We'd been in England and caught up with Kevin Hollister, a guy who had KHR Racing, and built his own frames then. And one of Rocky Warren, his cousin Chris, he was over there, as heavily involved in the English round of the the sidecar cross races in the past. And so we had some good contacts, and we ended up seeing the motocross Desnations there. That was in Holland, in a place called Os. Real sand track. One of the deep sand tracks that they have in Holland, and I reckon a race each went to Willemsen and Sergis then, and as hungover as I was for the race, that was pretty cool to see. And we did follow that up with Zolder. So we went to Belgium and saw the solo Desnations then, and at the time that was when Ricky Carmichael was at his peak, often referred to or regarded as probably definitely one of the best of all time in America. And Stefan Everts he'd won I don't know how many world championships in Europe, and they went head to head. And Carmichael blew him away. Actually, it was an incredible track, a place called Zolder, which is was a road racing circuit there that they'd sort of converted into this motor track on the banks on the side. They turned into big jumps, and they turned this whole thing. And there were about 50,000 people there. It was just this massive crowd, and just this crazy atmosphere.
It's insane how different it is, like over there to what it is here. Like we can race here and not even get like hardly any spectators that even rock up, and it's free.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, look, the sidecar cross scene. I mean, that was the solo one with the 50,000 people, but the sidecar one was still big.
Yeah,
and a lot of those European countries, it's a big deal. Somewhere like Latvia, when Sergis, he was just a national legend. I mean, it was one of the biggest sports in bloody Latvia. That was incredible to see a bit of that too, and really cool to do that with Baz and Brenton there. Had a lot to do with Baz then in those days, of course, and. Look, some of those chairs are still getting around on the track.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you guys went over and brought a heap to send back here, did you?
Yeah. So I ended up getting them into containers and sending them back. And there was, I know Kim had converted one there that was, right-hand sidecar, but most of it was left-hand stuff. And it was, it was amazing.
Was that hard to do? Getting the bikes and then sending them all back here, was it like a big logistical nightmare?
Yeah, at the time it was a pain in the ass, but I guess because having Chris Warren, like Rocky's cousin, involved, and we had some contacts there, so we managed to make it work. But most of them were left hand, so they didn't have to be converted. But there were, I think there was certainly one that was a right hand one. But at the time it was a bit of a deal, but managed to make it work. And I guess that was at that peak time. That was 2003, when the motocross scene just went nuts, and we all sort of thought the road trials, the reliability trials scene would just keep going backwards. It was struggling with numbers on the track then, sort of I guess around that sort of period then. But who would have thought it would turn around the opposite way now? So it's the road trial scene has just been amazing in the last few years, and it's so good. A lot of these sort of younger teens coming through, and I think it's it's where it's been a real breath of fresh air to see. The Beckmans and and the Hutchies, and now see Brad Hunter and Manuel and some of these younger ones come through the ranks, and of course they're the teams to beat now too. So yeah, that's been great. It's a real shame that the junior scene's kind of not as big as it could be. Kim's brother Kim, he's really disappointed at so many of these sheds that he spent so many hours on building that they're still in sheds somewhere, but not enough of them are getting used. So
Yeah.
credit to Rowie and a few guys that are still getting them out there, but yeah, it's just a bit of a shame that there should be more of them out there. There really should.
Yeah. Well, the other week at Morgan, we ended up with 11 sidecars, which is the most that I've seen in ages out there for seniors. And there was like 3 or 4 juniors, but like there was still people coming up going, "Oh my God, you guys are crazy. We've never seen this before." Like new people to the sport. So hopefully some of the new people that are coming in with their kids might go, "Oh, that's cool. Let's, get into it."
Yeah, exactly. And I think, a lot of people know that there's these chairs around in sheds and what have you. It's, I just would have thought, in particular with motocross, I mean, it's a lot cheaper than doing, reliability trials because not having to do the whole light setup. And obviously, bikes just they get a lot more wear and tear when you're doing reliability trials, whereas, motocross is sort of short, sharp and shiny, and you don't need as much money behind it, put it that way.
You don't wreck your bikes, like you're not smashing into rocks and stuff like that either.
Spot on. But of course, it's physically challenging, and it's tough doing sidecar cross. And look, I guess you got to have a bit of go behind you and endurance to do that. But and again,
bit of craziness.
Yeah, that's right. Sean Buckley's incredible to see him ride. I mean, I did go up to look at Renmark there. When was that? Perhaps not last year.
Oh, the Murray Williams Cup.
Yeah, the Murray Williams Cup, and that was so cool to see. That's when Crash had Brett on there, and that was a good field there. Yeah, that was really good to see, and I was really impressed to see how far Sean's come there too. And of course, he does really well in the reliability trials now too. So,
well, him and Crash, they've been sort of like battling a lot in the last few events that we've had.
Good, yeah, really good to see. Yep. And of course, his father. I mean, Barry Buckley, just absolute legend of the sport from way back. Back in the days of Murray Williams, and incredible. But it is good to see. I mean, often it is the offspring of races that have that interest because they grew up with it. But look, hopefully those numbers can keep gaining with motocross because there's no reason they can't. Like I say, looking at the reliability trial scene, I mean, pretty proud to see that, with the hundredths, with the 24, and see how many chairs are out there. That was just you never would have thought that 20 years ago. Yeah, it's come a long way. So I think there are a lot of people that that used to race in the 80s and 90s that would be very happy to see that. So I would have thought the scene, and look, what you're doing right now is going to be all part of that. It's trying to get the interest there, and I think we probably thought a bit of that with Fink, going up there, that because they were just fascinated by us up there. And I guess a lot of us thought that maybe that would translate to more people getting into it, perhaps down here, because there's always been that link with the Northern Territory and SA. A lot of SA people, fast track careers up at Alice or Darwin, whatever they're doing, with work. And, a lot of them are going to and fro Adelaide. And I just would have thought there would have been that would have created a bit more interest, knowing so many people followed Fink. But
I think it's just getting the bikes, I think, as well.
Yeah.
That makes it hard because you can't just go buy a sidecar.
No, spot on. That's right. And getting them regoed now, and that's all. It's not easy these days. Back in the day with all the home built stuff, I mean, you can't just do that anymore. So
and out of sight, out of mind. If people don't see it, they don't do it. So like they might see it once and then they sort of forget about it. But it needs to be like put in front of people's faces all the time, so they're like, I really want to do that.
Exactly. And I mean, back in the 80s, it was the News 24 Hour. I mean, the major sponsor was, major media, organisations. So, I mean, it was literally on the news. I mean, it's, there were choppers flying around at the 24 back in the day. So, it's,
wow.
At the same time, we want to try and have that continue on. I mean, the committee do an incredible job. My wife's been, was heavily involved with the committee for a long time, and as my brother and Crasher and so many of us were involved with helping out mark the track regularly and do controls and whatever else. And it's a huge event to put on each year. But really good to see Shane Dina so heavily involved with that in latter times too. And his band of merry men. But yeah, look, with live timing and it's become a bigger event, I guess, than it ever was in regards to people, wanting to tick it off bucket lists and things like that. So yeah, it's, as we all know, there's no other event in the world like that one.
No.
So in the past, there's been some pretty high profile interstate riders, and
Well, we've
yeah,
got the guys from overseas coming over and having a go too now.
yeah, of course, yeah, with the Welsh contingent,
Yep.
which yeah, it's pretty awesome to see that to and fro that Crash and Mark and Dave and some of these guys in those early days got happening, and now it's obviously happening in reverse. So really good to see, and yeah, look, I would have thought the future's bright as long as they can keep the legality side of it all going well. Which
Yeah.
yeah, as long as the bikes are legal, which they all are, there's no reason it can't. So
Yep.
yeah,
No, it's pretty
yeah,
awesome. When you tell people about it, they just can't believe it. They're like, "So do you swap riders or do you
yeah.
do you sleep?" It's like, "No." They're like, "What? No way."
Yeah. No, most people, couldn't contemplate doing anything that ridiculous, and yeah, I guess a lot of people just assume you're just sort of riding Miss Daisy when you're in a sidecar, but it's
Yeah.
anything but. It's the most physically challenging thing you could ever do. But and look, as anyone will tell you that's done it and got through it many times, it's more mind over matter than anything. I mean, you're all hurt, you're all in pain, and yeah, it's all well and good for me to say that the night laps we love because we knew that's where we could win it, and if we just buckled down and have a good smooth run, it was all good. But oh god, there's nothing worse than the end of that third lap where you've actually got to stop and hop off for bloody 20 30 minutes there and have your brekkie and or 40,
Yeah.
I guess, and you're seized up, and often it's a frost or it's around hovering around zero, or it's pissing out rain or whatever it's
And you're
doing.
wet.
Yeah, yeah. Look, your body doesn't want to keep going. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, even though we had that incredible run, it takes it out of you. Don't get me wrong.
What do you think was the biggest challenge?
Oh, look, I mean, weather more often than not. It was very rare that you'd get that sort of 9-10 degree night that was sort of clear and no wind or rain or sleet or fog or
Last
hail or
year we had that and it was so good.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was
So
so
when you
good.
get
The
those
weather
conditions,
helped a lot.
yeah, yeah. But when it's not, which more often than not, let's face it, it's the middle of winter, so it's generally cold, and that's the problem. And I don't have any fat in my body, so that probably didn't help either. But I'd sweat like a pig out in the sections, and then of course you get on the roads, and then yeah, you'd get too cold more often than not too. So yeah, look, that's not good for the body. Let's face it. I mean, I'd always try and keep up the fluids, and I'd still sort of eat as much as I could with dinner and breakfast. But I remember one year. I hadn't checked my camelback very well. I reckon that was with Kim one year, and yeah, I started getting a gut ache, throughout the event, and I was like, oh man, I feel like shit. And yeah, it's only afterwards I realised I hadn't cleaned my bloody camelback, and it was all mould in the main
Oh
straw.
no.
I'd been
Yeah.
sucking on mouldy water,
Oh
throughout the event.
no.
I made myself
Oh.
crook, what a dickhead. But
Yeah,
one,
but it's easy
one
enough
job,
done because they do get pretty festy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sidecar passengers, and I mean, we do cop grief for a reason. Face it. Sorry, guys. Sorry, all the passengers out there. I mean, this
Oh,
is going to sound pretty bad, but one year I was working up in the snow. I was driving buses up in at Mount Hotham, and managed to get the weekend off because the ski season only lasts for so long. But and they let me have the weekend off, but I had to work all day on the Friday. So I'm, cruising around the bus, taking the snow bunnies around on the mountain. I lived on the mountain, you see, at the time for a few months. And then, went down to pick up the Bedford, had the old Bedford, and it was a camper van. So drove it off the mountain that afternoon, night, and, drove down to Tullamarine to the airport and slept in the back of that in the car park and took the first flight the next morning, which, of course, was the Saturday of the 24 hours. So rolled into Adelaide, got picked up at the airport and straight to the track, got changed, did the 24 hour. We managed to win it, which was cool. And, sort of hopped back on the plane the next day or next night, I guess it was, and back to work on the mountain. But yeah,
bloody
that
hell.
was my input for the year. So look at, I mean, talk to anyone. Dave was a consummate professional in regards to bike prep, but yeah, he was a couple of hours away, and I didn't have anything to do with that side of it. So
Just
I was
roll
very
up
fortunate.
like a superstar, ride, then
Well, yeah,
go again.
I did pay my way. I certainly looked after Dave with paying for stuff, but of course, it was always his bikes and his input and maintenance, and I'm incredibly fortunate. I would not have all those titles medals to my name if it was purely because he was so good at what he did and his bike prep and everything else. I just happened to land the job with the best guy around at the time. So yeah, I make no bones about that. I was very fortunate. It's I'm certainly not much of a rider myself. In fact, I went up
I was going to say, have you ever swapped places?
Not riding sidecars, no, but solo I can certainly still ride. Not great, but I did go up with the guys there in, well, when was that, 23? I guess we did the Cape York ride, and unfortunately that was at kind of the height of my rheumatoid arthritis issues, so it wasn't the healthiest.
Could you do that on a sidecar?
No, you wouldn't be able to do a lot of that. The bridge crossings and some of the stuff on the old Frenchman's track there, and that would be very difficult to do some of that on a sidecar.
A few people have taken their sidecars on random things. I think Jock and Jason Whitfield went. I think they did a Flinders ride with a group of solos. But yeah, I was like, I wonder if you could take a sidecar on that, because that looks like a cool thing to do.
Yeah, just some of the crossings would be very difficult. But I guess there was normally diversions around a lot of that kind of stuff too for four-wheel drive. So probably it would depend on the water levels. Probably more than. I certainly drowned the DRZ there once, one of my own fault, but that was certainly over the sea.
Oh, they go forever anyway. Tractors.
Yeah, exactly. They do. You just get the water out and off they go. Basically, tip them upside down. It's quite funny. Or tip them on their back, should I say, and drain them out. And it's quite funny the way that'll work. But that was a struggle, I must admit. Yeah, the fitness is not great, but it was really good to do with a bunch of a lot of those sidecar guys. Mark Launer was on that one, and Crash, and Matty Neldner, and James Rowe. He was sort of the guy behind that. But that was pretty cool to do. So look, I don't know. I guess. A few of those guys, I reckon, Rowie and Crash, are going over to the high country in April there in a few weeks' time to go and do a bit of stuff in the high country. That would be amazing to do on a chair. I know Crash has done a bit up in the high country when he was living over in Meetung there with his wife. But the high country's that's Bike Heaven, isn't it? Let's face it. But you might come across Desi Freeman out there, so you didn't want to watch yourself, I guess. But that's a good place to be for sure.
Oh, bloody hell! What would be like one of the most funniest things that's happened to you guys?
Look, I mean, I guess the 24-hour stuff. I mean, it was always a highlight coming into the Dodgy Brothers control because, let's face it, young guys seeing bare breasts in the middle of the night when you're cruising around on the back of a cycle. That was always a good driver to keep you going.
So those rumours are true. All the crazy stuff, because people tell me stories. I'm like, did that really happen?
Yeah. Well, look, things were a little less politically correct back in the 90s and early 2000s, perhaps as well. But the Dodgy Brothers were renowned for a good control, shall we say? That was always funny. I mean, there was one year there was a guy wandering around naked, pushing a lawnmower through the rocks. And I think there's the old Besser block or one of those. I didn't actually see him personally, but all the gay guys did. So it was funny how Crasher and Kim and a heap of these guys saw him. But I didn't see him personally. But so you're always going to get the interesting stuff and the bare bottoms, of course. That's around the campfire where people have had far too much to drink. That was always funny. I certainly one year, Dave and I were, I reckon, on Brownlow Road out the back there. Quite often after the second or third lap, we'd end up sort of the first out. For whatever reason, we seemed to pick number 4 quite often there back in the day. Not that we had a choice, but so often then well into the event, you'd be the first one on the road in the middle of the night. And I remember we were cruising along and this bloody wombat come out from the side. He came racing out and straight into Dave's foot peg. And thank God it hit his foot peg, and it bent it up a bit too and didn't crush his foot. But if that hit the front wheel, I mean, you can imagine what would have happened to us. We would have went over the bar. I reckon we were doing 70 or 80. We weren't just idling out of a corner. Some of the wildlife was interesting at times. Certainly close calls with kangaroos, and certainly hit a few bunnies and things like that. But that keeps you on your toes in the middle of the night. I mean, we certainly had near misses and close call. Probably that wombat would have been our closest one.
Yeah.
But look, apart from that 2013, which, like I say, was my own fault, we didn't even crash. I mean, that snapped my leg all over the joint, but we didn't actually crash. I mean, we just had such a good run in 24s. It was just one of those things. I don't think that one time in the stump. Yeah, we did go. I was going to say, we tipped it over a few times, like just silly tip overs, But I reckon the only time we sort of went over the bars was probably that year when we went backwards down the hill and ended up on the stump, and somehow the bike didn't get didn't get seriously, damaged. So we managed to literally hop back on and finish the race. So
How do you reset after something like that? Like mentally, like do you sort of
look,
just forget about it and go, or?
I think I think Dave took it a little bit easy the next couple of sections because I was pretty ginger. I mean, I didn't get knocked out, but it was it wasn't great, shall we
Yeah.
say? And I think once the painkillers kicked in, I was like, let's after the first probably the next two sections. I said, no, I feel comfortable enough. Let's go for it. Let's get over and done with. The quicker the better. So
Yeah.
we kind of just got in our groove like we always do, and we just read each other so well. And I'm sure any of the guys will tell you that the riders that they can tell if the sidecar passenger is struggling, and Dave definitely could tell that last time we did Fink because I mean I was slamming into his back. I
Yeah.
had nothing. That's the only time I reckon I've ever had nothing left. I've never told Dave to slow down, but I didn't have to. Then he could tell that I was in a world of pain. But it was so near the end that we sort of I think we had it in the bag that year too, so he didn't have to get too carried away. And we managed to finish. But certainly with 6 hours and 12 hours and the Robbie 2 day and 24 hour look, I could be in pain and things weren't great, but no, we were just in sync and
Do you
never really.
find the body or the mind gives up first?
Oh, for me, definitely the mind. You would get in that hole, in that sort of second and third lap, in particular, sort of in the latter parts, that last third of the second lap in the 24. You mentally know you're not even halfway yet, but
Yeah.
you know you're in pain because we were never going slow. Let's face it. But so you've been digging deep, and that lower back, there was always a couple of sections with had shitty cambers or just sections. You know what it's like. You get to a couple of these sections and you go, oh god, it's longer, it's going to be hard. And
Yeah.
certainly in the 100th there was the rocky section there, and I mean that went for how long did that go? 15
Too
k's or
bloody
something.
long.
Yeah, too long. And of course I marked a lot of the end part of that. I didn't mark the rocky bit, by the way. That wasn't me. That was
That's what
Crasher.
killed me, that one. I was
Yeah,
like,
blame
oh,
Crash.
yeah, it was no good.
Yeah, but the second half of that, a lot of it was creek bed type stuff, and there's some of that scrub stuff got real dusty, I know, but those long sections when you knew you were coming into one of them, you had to get the grit. I just sort of, I'm a bit of a metal fan, so I would, leading up to the event, I'd listen to a heap of metal on the way to the track,
Yep.
or just get myself pumped up for it, and I would just play that in my own head, and if I was in, it was on the road sections because you're focused when you're in the actual time sections, but when you get out on the road, I'd just sing myself a bit of Slayer, a bit of
Yeah.
Rain and Blood, something just
Get
to
in the
go.
zone.
Yeah, well, I used to love Alice in Chains. I mean, it was Alice in Chains. They got a song called "Down in a Hole," and you go, I'm down in a hole,
Oh,
but
yeah, I
I'm
know that song.
yeah, and Rooster, love all that. That what an album, Dirt, wow. But yeah, for me, metal was a part of it for sure. That helped get me through. But you know what? Probably the biggest thing was family and friends. When I'd see Mandy, it'd just put a big smile on my face. And in those latter years, when the kids, she'd have the kids in tow as well, and she'd always have people helping her out. And Cass, when she Matt and Cass, her brother, it was amazing. And yeah, Kim was always incredible when he was actually there. He would. He would follow us around all the event and keep us going. And yeah, that was a huge part of it.
It does really. Like when you do, you come out of somewhere and you're thinking, oh shit, and then you see everyone going, go, 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 and you're like, oh, and you get like a second wind and you're like, oh, come on, let's
Yeah,
go. You know
yeah,
you're all
definitely.
right. Like it sort of makes you feel like, no, I'm all right. I can do this.
Yeah, spot on. Like, and I think I reckon it still goes back to that 95. The first time I did it, I was in a world of pain then. I was not in a good place, with my knee. And it's not, you don't snap your ACL and just cruise around on a sidecar and it's not going to be okay. That
Yeah.
wasn't great. But I really feel that helped me later on. And I'm a bit of a hiker too. I've done some pretty big hikes around the world, like, for sort of 5, 6, 7 days at a time. And we did one on the bottom of the Patagonia. It was just brutal at times, in the bottom of South America. Well, last time I was in South America, let's face it, 25 years ago, up in, that's why I can't wait to go to Argentina. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, then I did some stuff in the Grampians during COVID, the Grampians Peaks Trail, and it's brutal. You're following these peaks and doing that in the middle of winter and just on my own. And yeah, that I had to really dig deep. And look, ask Rowie, he'll give you he'll tell you till the cows come home. But I did quite a bit of the Larapinta Trail, which is in the West McDonnell Ranges out out from Alice there. It's about a 230k hike, but I did quite a large section of that. But a couple of days in, I ran out of water. I probably didn't do my homework completely. So after every day, when you do a hike, normally there's a rainwater tank. Any of the famous hikes in the world are like that. There'll be a shelter and a rainwater tank and what have you. But anyway, this one section there wasn't a rainwater tank at the end of it, so yeah, I literally ran out of water that next day, and I was not in a good way there for a while. But
Wow.
you dig deep, and I know some of that still from the 24-hour days and Fink days, where I knew as much pain as you might be in, or you put yourself into a bit of a precarious position, I knew I could get through. So
Yeah.
yeah, that endurance side, I've got that. Certainly I'm not a muscly guy. I'm just a little weedy dude. But that was all well and good for road trials in general. But you still had to dig deep, and a lot of that's mental. A
Yeah.
lot of that.
100%.
And Dave was, he was solid. He was rock solid. Didn't have a problem. I knew he'd be fine. But without a doubt, I think the mental side was the big one for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, is if you can tell yourself like I've got this and I can do it, like it's amazing what you can actually do because as soon as you start saying, "Oh, I can't do it" or whatever, that's it all just goes to crap.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I've got a few health issues now, but it's all controlled. I'm on medication for all the rheumatoid arthritis. It's fine. To see what my wife's been through and what she went through before I even met her was just horrific. And she had 3 major back operations and just been through hell and back. And then when I saw her go through what she did back in 2011, I guess it was, when a hip replacement went horribly wrong. And she spent months in hospital, and we had young kids. I mean, she had natural birth. She's just an absolute rock star Trojan. She just as low as she can be at times, and I've seen her at her lowest through that period. She just digs deep,
Yeah,
and for me that's so inspirational. And I know
yeah,
not just, but I mean, I live it and see what she goes through, and she has good days and bad days. But to see her, and look, I was going to be finishing up with sidecars back in, I guess that was 2012 anyway. I sort of come back and we did that one, but she was a para athlete, for Australia at that point, and she was starting to do some overseas stuff, and so we were going to. She'd focused on my career there in our early days, and for a long time there, we got together in '04, and what's that? 2012. She'd been putting up with trying to get a wheelchair around bloody road trials. You can imagine what that's like
yeah.
through.
I've seen her cruising around out there, and I
Yeah,
think bloody hell, she's like out in the middle of the whoops too, like out in all the
that's right.
sand and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So no mean feat, but it was time to give back to her. So yeah, I probably didn't have many years left. I mean, she sort of said, "No, get back on with Dave," and yeah, so we did that in 12 and 13, and of course after 13, it's like, oh shit, and I think it's time. The reality check as well that things could have went a bit worse there, and shit, if I lost a leg or couldn't walk as well, I mean that's not great bringing up young kids in that situation. And so yeah, look, I guess that was probably a bit of a reality check as well, but at the same time. Sort of whenever I hopped on a chair, there was no fear. I mean, you couldn't, otherwise that's when you get yourself into trouble.
Yeah,
But it was time to focus on her, and she's done some incredible things with her table tennis career, and only finished up herself 18 months ago, or not long ago anyway, 2 years ago I guess now. But so it was really cool that she was able to explore other sporting opportunities post sidecar world, and she never blamed the sidecar, she never blamed motorbikes. That was just one of those things. In fact, she was heavily involved with the Gawler Motorcycle Club and the 24-hour committee for many years. So hats off to her for doing that as well, because she could have just turned her back on that world and despised it and just put herself in another hole as well. But
yeah,
no, that just so yeah, I'm pretty lucky to have had a wife that's supported what I've done all those years. But I guess the realization that we've all got it easy. Shit, when you see what she has to go through just to get up and go about everyday life every day. So
yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah, I know that's not just me that thinks that. So yeah, it's I'm pretty lucky. I've got a solid family, so it's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. I was just going to say, what do your family and friends think of everything? And has everyone always supported you?
Oh, for sure. I guess mum and dad were never keen on the sidecar thing, because, and obviously they knew what happened with Mandy. But yeah, probably a bit like Crash. I mean, we grew up on farms, but my parents were not into motorbikes at all. Really, that wasn't a thing. So yeah, I guess the danger factor. Let's face it, everyone knows that it's ever present. It's there, and it's things can go wrong. They go really wrong, and yeah, look, support was wonderful, but yeah, certainly, we just did that. And when you're young, when you're a male, you don't really care, do you? You think you're bulletproof, don't you? So
Yeah,
you just go out there, and like I said, you wouldn't want to go out there and be a bit tentative or having a bit of fear. I think that would be, you wouldn't want to be on the track if you're in, especially riding.
Well, you
Riding,
mess up when you're scared like that.
spot on, spot on. So the smoothest ones are the best ones, and that's why you look at the way the two Brads have ridden in the recent times, or even Crasher. I mean, he was a bit more erratic when he was younger, and he's just a lot smoother these days. And that's how you get fast. You get smooth, and
Yeah.
I see that. With Sean Buckley on riding on a motocross track too, he makes it look fairly seamless, and I guess you could say that about any sport. Professionals when they're at their peak, they make it look easy. Look at a Roger Federer or Djokovic playing tennis or something. They just don't even look like they're trying half the time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things, isn't it? But
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I'm jumping on with Lara at
yeah,
Port Pirie, and I'm like, oh, that's probably going to be the fastest that I've ever been on a sidecar. And
sure.
my mum gets a bit worried, but I'm like, yeah, but the faster ones, they actually it's faster, but the way that they ride is
Yeah.
so smooth, and they know what they're doing. Like it's not as scary as what you'd think it would be.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Lara's she's a gun. You got no problems there. And of course you've been with Carolyn. I mean, she's been on bikes forever. I mean,
yeah.
you do. You put trust in obviously the rider, and I don't know. I'm not going to name some people that I've raced against in the past, but gee, there's been some pretty erratic guys out there, and I know I wouldn't want to be on the side with them because flinging their passengers all over the joint. You go, oh man, they're not going to last. And that's. I was very fortunate, and Kim was a good rider too. I feel sorry for him. He put so much into the bloody sport, and I mean, we really should have had a very top position there. One probably two times we could have won it. Definitely together. But anyway, these things happen, and it's just the way it is, isn't it? But,
What sort of things do you think are like the key skills to be successful?
yeah, look, obviously mindset's a big part of it. You've got to be fit and agile if you're in a sidecar, without a doubt. But endurance is everything, and that comes back to that mind over matter thing. And look at someone like Stiff. I mean, just nothing to put him down. He just, apart from when he's spewing up in his helmet or something, but apart from that, I mean, yeah, if you're mentally really tough, you're just going to keep doing it, aren't you? You just, and that's, I think part of it. A lot of us grew up out in the bush, and it's marginal land, and it's you sort of grow up having to be a bit tougher, I guess. I don't know. That's probably part of it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I'm speaking from a passenger's point of view, but you've really got to be flexible. You've got to be agile. I mean, yeah, left-handers. I mean, probably someone like my brother-in-law Matt. He was he's really tall, and he's obviously weighs a lot more, and he just gets his positioning right, and he's been able to do it well, for a long time without overexerting himself. But he's just in the right spot.
Yeah, that
Um,
technique. If you get it perfect, you're
yeah,
not using energy that you don't need to.
yeah, spot on. So look, I think a lot of people see that sort of smaller guys in the chairs tend to, look at Brian Anthony. I mean, he's just brilliant. But there's been some bigger guys in chairs that could do incredibly well. Sorry, I'm brain fat. I can't think of Robbo's original passenger that he had for so many years, but he was a solid guy. But yeah, he was all over the chair for sure. But yeah, look, I think it's a combination. Let's face it. If you're doing the long stuff like 24 hours, you've got to be physically and mentally fit. I know a lot of the guys train a lot more these days, and yeah, if you want to be at that kind of pace for that kind of period, you're gonna have to be somewhat fit. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We always joke about the beers and the booze afterwards, but yeah, I think gone are the days of the 80s and 90s where everyone would be half pissed, bloody from the night before, or hungover or whatever. You
Yeah, I
just
don't think anyone
can't
does that
do that with
anymore.
yeah, you just can't be hopping on to doing these kind of speeds because obviously the bikes are a lot faster now too because they're so well built and since the chromoly the factory frames out of Europe since Dave got into that and everyone sort of follows suit. I mean it's yeah, these things go fast, and yeah, you don't want to be crashing at these speeds. It's as simple as that. So yeah,
Is there
look,
anything that you wish that you knew early in your career?
anything I wish I knew earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, probably not. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked to have achieved any more. Let's face it. I mean, I guess we were starting to get a bit greedy in the end, where we missed a few years for various reasons there, but we kind of hopped on and expected we were going to do well because we knew how to do it so well. But we weren't after. It wasn't about winning so many or I would love to have seen Dave get to 10. It would have been amazing. To see Shane Daney win 10 on a solo is incredible. But that wasn't really what it was about. It was just good fun. We just loved it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there was never these goals of, we're gonna win so many or
It's
anything
probably
like
why you
that.
did it though, because you did it because it was fun
Yeah.
and there wasn't that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was the love of it and the camaraderie. I mean, I just love the guys around us, and that's the beauty of the chairs, that you get to the controls and the chats with bloody Heck and Sean and Mark and Matty Nelder back in the days, and just talking shit around a fire, and it's cold, you're all in pain, but and of course
You'll laugh
anytime,
about it and yeah.
yeah, Crash is talking horse shit and just stir up Archies or whatever he's
Well, he
doing.
still does that.
Of
Sorry,
course he does.
Crash.
Yeah,
Sorry, not
just
sorry.
yeah, so it's just so funny, and it keeps everyone, just amused. And I feel sorry for the solos, if you're ever amongst them, that, of course, depending on what the order was with road trials or what have you. And those poor buggers, they're barely talking to each other,
Yeah.
and they're doing it alone. And you go, oh, man, I mean, it's got to be a hard slog when you're getting in a hole, shit. Whereas, if we ever got in a hole, you just bounce off each other, and yeah, it's all good. So,
And that's
no,
part of it though as well. Like, even I think, oh, I can't wait for like motocross season or reliability seasons to start again because I miss all the moto crew.
yeah, definitely. Great crowd, really good crowd, good bunch. And I mean, that's why it's something like going up to Cape York and doing that ride. And I mean, yeah, terrible rider myself, but it's just good fun to be around all these guys. And now to think I'm, popping over to bloody South America, something I used to do, back in the day, and doing it with Mark and Crash and Bates. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. But yeah, this gives you long life, lifelong friendships without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think, as any of us older farts would say, look, I haven't ridden, since 2013. It's a long time ago, but just to see all the guys coming through, especially some of these guys that were kids of people we used to race with,
Yeah.
that's cool to see that.
And even though you haven't been in, like, you haven't ridden, like, for that time, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone's still a part of that
Definitely.
community in that group. Like, it's not like you ride and then everyone just forgets about you and that's it.
No, no, of
Like the
course.
amount of times that people have mentioned your name to me, and like, heaps of people have said, oh, you need to get him on the podcast, and like all
Sure.
these stories that, as me being only in sidecars for what, 3 years or something,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I hear so many stories and everyone's like, oh, T-bone this and that and blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Like, I know
yeah,
who these people are and I've never even like met them and they haven't even raced while I've been racing. But yet,
yeah.
like, you're just constantly hearing all the stories and stuff about people, which is really cool. Like, people don't get forgotten.
Of course, and look, from my point of view, it's very humbling. I mean, I was just at the right place at the right time, and I got to hop on a ride, with Dave, and he's a gun. I mean, he was just untouchable in those days, and yeah, so it's very humbling for me. But I was very fortunate to be there at that time. So yeah, it's such good fun, and really, yeah, people talk about the good old days. I mean, they were incredible days, and often that day after the 24, I mean, the 12 hour, whatever these days, but many times we'd have people around our place here, and we'd have huge gatherings of the sidecar people, literally the day after. And I mean, even after that crash we had in 2013, everyone still come around the next day. And sadly, Ella stuck a couple of teeth through her gum there, bouncing off the bed with the Schiller kids. So let's blame the Schiller kids for that. So, but yeah, that wasn't a great period of time through there. But everyone was still around, and yeah, I had incredible support. I mean, they put a surprise meeting on for me at Caton. I've been a Caton member forever, and I think Crasher picked me up then, and yeah, that's right, because I could barely walk. I was in a moon boot or whatever. I was off my feet for about 10 weeks there, I think. And yeah, went to the Caton meeting. The debrief after the 24, as you sort of always did anyway. And all these sidecar guys were there, because that was kind of, we knew that was going to be the end of my career probably at that point.
Yeah.
And that was incredible to
Like,
be at that meeting.
give you a
And
bit of
have
a
all,
send off.
yeah, they did. They gave us a real send off, and yeah, that's pretty emotional stuff from my point of view. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I guess, like I say, I was just so damn thankful that I could still walk, because yeah, to see what my wife has been through, and to think that I'd snapped all these little bones all over the joint, and that could have been a lot worse. And yeah, sadly, a guy did lose his leg there in recent times, but things can go very bad. So
Yeah.
yeah, look, I don't think there's anything that I regret, or anything that I would have wanted to have done. So proud to see the Hutchies go and do the Australian Safari. I went up to Condo and was helping out fuel up Rowie and Matt on that occasion. It's so good to see a bunch of the guys get together and do condo, and yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, look, I'm a huge MotoGP fan, so can't wait to see this in Adelaide. I mean, back in the early days, I never forget '98 crash, and Kim, my brother, and Sonny, good mate at the time, we went over at a Sandman panel van, and we went over to Phillip Island for the Grand Prix and saw Mickey Doohan win the race, win his 5th World Championship, and I've been a huge follower of it ever since. And that Sandman's had numerous trips over there. In fact, that's where Crasher met his wife.
Oh, yeah.
At one of the MotoGPs in Phillip Island. Sad to see it leave Phillip Island, but it's going to be amazing for South Australia, assuming they can pull it off. I don't know how they're going to do a street circuit, but anyway.
Yeah.
And, that very panel van Crash is doing up right now. He's almost finished it. He's not far off it, but he always said, if you ever sell it, I want it. And so that's it's just another thing from back in the day with bikes. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. Would that be that sort of stuff? Is that like? Would that be your favourite sort of thing about racing sidecars? Is the camaraderie and friendships and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lifelong friendships. I mean, if someone said to me, 20 years ago, you're gonna go to Argentina and watch a round of the Dakar Series, basically Rally Road, with a bunch of guys you used to race against. I mean, Crash has always been a good mate, but yeah, that's that just goes to show. We're going to go and do a huge ride up at Cape York. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, you never would have thought of that. 20 years ago.
Extends away from the track out into real life.
Yeah, definitely, and that's camaraderie, beyond belief. And I don't know. I mean, I guess sidecar racing's a team sport. Let's face it. But like I mentioned there before, solos, I felt sorry for them a lot of the time. They're just stuck in there behind the helmet, and they're just their own thoughts. And we would directly opposite that. I mean, some of the shit we got up to, at Alice doing those Fink days, and it was just ridiculous. But just good times, good crowd, good times. So yeah, no, and really now to see Ella doing that racing with Asher and still be able to go up to Morgan and see you guys cruising around. It's you can't help but be proud and to enjoy it. It's just a good scene. It's a really good scene.
Yep, no, definitely. So future, do you think you'll ever have another go? You said you and Dave entered into the 24, but just couldn't, didn't line up, didn't happen. Do you reckon you'll give it another go?
To be honest, I doubt it. That the 100th was going to be the swan song, and I know. Look, Dave's doing up another chair, I think now, but I do a bit of fitness now just to try and keep the joints moving, but I don't think I'd get through much anymore. This rheumatoid arthritis isn't a great thing. That's the hot tip, but I'm able to manage it, medically. But yeah, it's I doubt I'd be able to be honest. But you never know. You never know, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, you never say never, I guess. But, it's a long time ago, put it that way, that we actually raced. And yeah, look, I'd love to still be involved, which have been ever since, with controls and marking out and whatever, but pulling out staples and markers and all the usual kind of stuff you do. But yeah, look, nothing but
Ella
good memories.
Will do the reliability trials?
Well, don't know. It'd be interesting. We'll be interested to see on her return from Canada where she's at. She's a real goer with whatever she puts her mind to. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that, it would not surprise me at all that if Asher and her, get a road trials bike down the track. But who knows? That'll be probably up to her. We won't be able to stop her when she's in that position. But, yeah. There'll be apprehension from Andy and my point of view, of course, knowing that what we know. But, yeah. Who knows? It'd be wonderful, but at the same time, they're going to make their own decisions. We just want them to be happy, independent, safe, and healthy. So wherever that's, who knows? But it's we're at that different stage of life now where they're all grown up all of a sudden. So who knows?
So, is there any things like the hardest parts of sort of riding a sidecar that people wouldn't know about or don't see? Like, is there something that you think?
Well, probably the stuff I never saw. Dave was always in the shed doing it.
Yeah.
And Kim was in the shed building it. I was just one of those lucky ones. I was traveling around the world, having lived my best life, and I managed to just hop on. But yeah, look, I think there's a lot of and there's a huge amount of money involved. I certainly put in regards to entry fees and fuel and everything else, but yeah, they can be a money pit. And talk to anyone that does road trials for any length of time. So yeah, you're gonna have to put your passion into your back pocket too. And if you want to finish regularly, you're gonna have to maintain your bikes well. And look at any of the people that have done well and they're generally maintaining their bikes pretty damn well. So yeah, there's a lot of time in the shed, and you're gonna need a lot of understanding from your partner if you're going to be doing that. But look, I don't know. I guess in regards to racing itself, you're soon going to know once you've done a few whether it's whether it's your thing or not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like Brad mentioned there, Brad Hunter with his, when you've had a bad stack, it's going to take a while to get your headspace back again, and yeah, that's not easy. It's not going to be easy for everyone. Yeah, we had our times, and yeah, look,
Well,
I don't
people
know.
tend to think that being a passenger is a lot easier than what it is. Like people go, "Oh, you just stand on the side." Like,
Yeah,
no, it's way harder than what you think.
yeah, physically, and this is the thing. Most passengers, that they struggle once they get into their 40s, and that's where I don't know your Tyson Rolex and your stiff Dakies to be able to do that, into your 40s. That's I'm impressed. I retired at 30, 34 or something,
Yeah.
35. It's incredible. These guys have got the stamina to keep going, and we've seen it with riders. We've seen it with Robbo and Razzie, and yeah, look, I don't know. It's incredible to see what Crash is able to do pace-wise still at this end of his career. But yeah, look, riders, if they can keep themselves fit, keep their eyesight right. Eyesight's a big one, I guess, too. I think Mark's probably suffered with that a bit in recent times too at the night laps. But
Yeah, I was going to
yeah,
say, especially riding at night in the
yeah,
trials, you bloody see all
yeah.
these weird shadows and sticks and holes and things, and it's
Well,
like, is that there or is it not?
spot on, and headlights are a lot better these days. It's often the overhangs though, and yeah, I know I took my head out there once, badly on an overhanging limb, and of course the jar on your neck's not great. But yeah, look, if you can keep yourself healthy and vision and all that, I mean, riders, and who knows? I mean, if you're a real fit guy in a chair, I mean, who knows? You could do it well into your 50s, I guess, but that won't be me, unfortunately. But yeah. It'll be interesting to see how how long some of these guys can go. I mean, I'll be interested to see how far, well, hopefully, Brad Hunter and the Brads can keep together. Or, of course, teams change, riders and passengers change a lot. I was probably fortunate I only had sort of two main teams I was ever with. But yeah, look.
Well, look at Barry
great.
Buckley. He's only just retired.
Oh,
He's, what, 73 or something?
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah, I just can't believe he was
And
able to do it.
he was still hooking along. Like, he wasn't going slow.
Absolutely. Yep. No, spot on. So yeah, world's your oyster, I guess. If you've still got it in you, it all comes down to passion, I guess. If you've still got the passion, the drive, go for as long as you can.
Yep.
And yeah, to see what some of these guys are doing, going over to Wales now and coming back, and yeah, the psycho world's opened up a bit more too to other opportunities, hasn't it? So yeah, it's not
good.
just.
I think social media and stuff's helping sort of open it up to the world a bit too, so that's good.
Yeah,
and
good.
lots of people are making video logs and all sorts of stuff now, and so that's good.
Literally just continue to go, what are those freaks doing? What is that? How do you do that? And
Some of the comments are hilarious when you read the comments on stuff. People are just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, spot on. So no, I really hope that it lives for a lot longer. I mean, I guess a lot of people really wanted to see the 24 get to its 100th. It's done that now, hasn't it? So it'd be great to prolong some of these things. I really hope that's possible, because in this bloody politically correct world we live in, who knows? Insurance is always talked about and comes up. And
well, the 24, it's way under the radar. It should be way more famous than what it is, I reckon.
Well, yes and no, but
you look at Fink. Like, everyone knows what Fink is. Like, I don't know. I just think the 24, like, it's a pretty epic race. And, a lot of people don't even know that it even is a thing. It's like...
Yeah, and that's probably a good thing, though, as well.
Yeah, true.
A lot of people would like to keep it that way somewhat so that it doesn't get exposed to the powers to be and perhaps people that would want to stop it. So that's one of its saving graces as well. But, I'm a bit in two minds with that myself. But, yeah, it's probably good where it's at right now if it can continue somewhat like that. But the fact that you're still able to ride on roads, for that period is pretty tough. But time will tell. Time will tell.
All right. Well, we've been chatting for a while now. Might
feels like it. Yeah.
Wrap it up. I'm just going to do this thing. I haven't done it with anyone yet, so it's just a quick 10 this or that sort of things. So day or night racing?
I'm going to say night.
Yeah. Sand or rocks?
Sand.
Yep. Lead from the front or chase down?
Lead from the front.
Yep. Tight single trail or wide open paddocks?
Oh, tight, for sure.
Dust or mud?
Mud.
Expensive bike or skilled rider?
Skilled rider.
2-stroke or 4-stroke?
4-stroke for sure.
Win ugly or lose riding perfect?
I guess win ugly. I know, it's a good win.
Fresh track or run it out?
Second lap's good. Fresher.
In between. Logs or bog holes?
Logs.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you didn't have much time to think about it, but yeah, that says it all.
Have you been stuck in some bog holes?
Oh yeah, we've been in bog holes before. Not great. Yeah, Robbie 2 Day, I guess, is that's been a classic for that. 24 hour. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We would have been for sure.
Oh, definitely wouldn't want to get stuck in one in the 24-hour. That's way too long.
No, you see some of the stuff where you're going, people are tipping them over end. Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, and it's like the first or second lap, and it's like, oh my God, you've got so far to go,
Yeah.
and this is the first time going through this. Yeah, that.
Yeah, spot on. But yeah, again, being light probably helps, keeping that weight over the rear. Yeah, if I weighed a lot more, it would probably not be ideal with that, but yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for having a chat and jumping on. It's been really good.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. No, thanks for thinking of us. And, like I say, it's a bit of a humbling thing. I've never really sort of sat down and talked to someone this extensively about the career. And it's, let's face it, it's a long time ago, 13 years ago since I finished. So, yeah thank you for the opportunity. And like I say, I think sport's in pretty good condition right now, and probably a bit of a surprise to a lot of us. And I couldn't be prouder of all the guys still getting out there and doing their thing. So good stuff. And well done for you for doing this podcast, and this all helps. So
yeah,
nice
hopefully.
Yeah, good stuff. And all the best with your career.
It's good to bloody get people's stories too, because some of these stories you might only know, and they don't get passed down for other people to hear and learn from and stuff. So it's good to at least have it somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. You got it. Yeah. And good to see some girl power out there. It's great seeing.
There's actually been quite a few, so that's good.
Yeah, good stuff. No, well, all the best. I'll continue to follow the scene greatly. So really cool.
Awesome. Well, have fun on your trip.
Yeah, Argentina, bring it up. Can't wait. I'm sure we'll have a few stories after that too.
Yeah, we might have to do a part 2.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. All right, thank you. See ya. I just want to give a shout out to the Sidecar Spin sponsors: the Dohse Family, Manuel MotoSports, Modern Air, Diesel Performance Solutions SA, and Clare Valley Speckle Park Beef. Please go and jump on Facebook and give these guys a like, and make sure you pop in and support the businesses that support Sidecars. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Sidecar Spin. And thanks heaps to T-Bone for jumping on and having a chat. That was really cool. It's always awesome to get one of the old school riders or passengers on the podcast and listen to some of the cool old stories. And so thanks guys for the support, and we'll see you again next time.